In the year 2035, society had reached an era of unprecedented technological advancements. Humanity had harnessed the power of time itself, leading to innovations beyond imagination. Yet, with progress came unforeseen consequences. A shadowy group emerged from the fringes of this new world, known only as the Nameless. Cloaked in anonymity, they were time travelers with a sinister purpose, slipping through the cracks of history to alter events to their advantage. Chapter 1. The Origins of the Nameless. The Nameless were born from a secret government project known as the Kronos Initiative. The project aimed to create a group of elite operatives capable of traveling through time to prevent disasters and ensure a utopian future. However, the power to manipulate time proved too tempting, corrupting those involved. Dr. Elias Gray, a brilliant but morally ambiguous scientist, spearheaded the project. As he delved deeper into the mysteries of time, he discovered a way to bend reality, enabling his team to not only observe, but also alter the past. The original goal was noble, but the allure of power transformed them into the Nameless, a group devoid of identity and empathy, driven solely by their own twisted sense of destiny. Their ultimate objective was to harvest life energy from the past to sustain their own timeline, which was on the brink of collapse due to a catastrophic event known as the Temporal Rift. This event, caused by excessive tampering with time, threatened to annihilate their existence. To save themselves, the Nameless needed to gather enough life force from unsuspecting victims throughout history. Chapter 2. The First Encounter. It was a quiet night in 1923, in the small town of Millwood. The townsfolk were enjoying the annual harvest festival, unaware of the looming terror. As the moon reached its zenith, an unnatural fog rolled in, blanketing the town in an eerie silence. Suddenly, strange, glowing orbs appeared, hovering above the ground. From within the mist, the Nameless emerged. Sarah, a local schoolteacher, was the first to see them. Cloaked in dark, flowing robes, their faces obscured by shadow, they moved with a haunting grace. She watched in horror as they approached the festival, their mere presence causing the air to grow cold. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice trembling. The leader of the Nameless stepped forward, his eyes gleaming with a malevolent light. "We are from a time beyond your understanding," he said in a voice that seemed to echo from the depths of a void. "We have come to collect what is ours." Without warning, the Nameless began to unleash their horror. People screamed as they were lifted into the air by invisible forces, their bodies contorting in unnatural ways. Sarah tried to run, but the ground seemed to shift beneath her feet, trapping her in place. As she looked back, she saw the Nameless performing grotesque rituals, drawing symbols in the air that glowed with an otherworldly light. Chapter 3. The Town's Descent. Days turned into weeks, and the Nameless continued their reign of terror. Millwood was no longer the cheerful town it once was. It had become a place of nightmares. Every night the fog would return, and with it, the Nameless. They dragged people from their homes, subjecting them to horrific experiments that defied explanation. John, a farmer who had lost his wife to the Nameless, decided to take action. Gathering a small group of survivors, he devised a plan to confront the intruders. Armed with torches and pitchforks, they ventured into the heart of the fog, determined to end the nightmare. As they approached the source of the glowing orbs, they were met with an unsettling sight. The Nameless were gathered around a massive, pulsating portal. Strange creatures writhed and screamed within, their forms constantly shifting. "We must destroy it," John whispered to his companions. "It's the only way to stop them." But as they moved closer, the Nameless turned their attention to the intruders. With a wave of his hand, the leader of the Nameless summoned dark tendrils from the portal, which wrapped around John's group, pulling them into the air. John's screams echoed through the night as he was consumed by the darkness. Chapter 4. The Time Loop. Sarah, one of the few remaining survivors, realized that the Nameless were not just terrorizing Millwood, they were manipulating time itself. Every night, the events would reset, trapping the town in a perpetual loop of horror. Desperate for answers, she sought out the town's reclusive historian, Mr. Whitaker, who had long been obsessed with the occult. Mr. Whitaker, I believe the Nameless are using a powerful artifact, Mr. Whitaker explained, his eyes filled with a mix of fear and excitement. If we can find it and destroy it, we might be able to break the loop. With renewed hope, Sarah and Mr. Whitaker set out to uncover the artifact's location. Their search led them to the old abandoned church on the outskirts of town. As they entered, they were confronted by the leader of the Nameless, who seemed to anticipate their every move. Leader of the Nameless. You cannot stop us, he hissed, his voice filled with malice. We exist beyond your understanding. But Sarah was determined. She spotted a strange, glowing relic at the center of the church. Summoning all her courage, she lunged for it, only to be met with a blinding flash of light. Chapter 5. The Unraveling. When Sarah opened her eyes, she found herself back at the Harvest Festival, the events of the past few weeks seemingly erased. The town was bustling with life, and the Nameless were nowhere to be seen. She approached Mr. Whitaker, who looked at her with a puzzled expression. Mr. Whitaker, do I know you? He asked, his voice tinged with confusion. Realizing that she was the only one who remembered the horrors, Sarah felt a sinking dread. Had she truly broken the loop, or was this another trick of the Nameless? As she walked through the town, she noticed subtle changes. People she had seen die were alive, but their eyes held a strange, distant look. And then in the shadows, she glimpsed a figure cloaked in darkness, watching her. Chapter 6. The Final Revelation. Determined to uncover the truth, Sarah ventured back to the abandoned church. There she found a hidden chamber beneath the altar. Inside, she discovered an ancient book filled with cryptic symbols and a map leading to a forgotten place deep in the forest. Following the map, she reached a clearing where the remnants of an old, dilapidated mansion stood. Entering the mansion, she found herself face to face with the leader of the Nameless. Leader of the Nameless. Welcome, Sarah, he said with a sinister smile. With a wave of his hand, the room began to distort, and Sarah felt herself being pulled through time. She found herself in a future world, surrounded by the Nameless. The leader revealed their true purpose: to prevent a catastrophic event that would annihilate their timeline. They had to harvest the life force of those from the past. Leader of the Nameless, you are the key, he whispered. Your sacrifice will save us all. As Sarah felt her strength waning, she realized that she was not alone. The spirits of those who had fallen to the Nameless appeared, their combined will forming a protective barrier around her. With a final, desperate effort, Sarah shattered the artifact, causing the Nameless to disintegrate into nothingness. Epilogue: A New Dawn. Sarah awoke in her bed, the morning sun shining through her window. The town of Millwood was at peace, and the memories of the Nameless were fading like a distant nightmare. Yet, as she looked into the mirror, she noticed a faint glowing mark on her wrist, a reminder of the horrors she had faced and the time that had almost consumed her. And in the shadows of the town, a single glowing orb flickered, hinting that the Nameless might one day return.